Before junking the exhaust off the bike, there were a couple of things I wanted to do. The first of those was to get some accurate measurements on the sound levels. The other thing was to see what power the bike was putting out. The previous owner assured me that it had been properly set up on a dyno, so I really wanted to see if that was true. For the first of these I turned to my good friend Tim. He's got some serious kit, both for recording sound and for measuring sound levels. First off, we check the sound level. The sensor here is positioned as it should be in terms of the regulations, and we revved the bike up to around about 10,000 RPM. Tim must have some very understanding neighbours. We peaked at just over 118 dB, which, although amusing, is not good in terms of track limits, which in the UK are normally set to 102. As well as the static tests, we spent a couple of hours having some fun on the side of the road, recording some flybys. These have been recorded in full binaural audio. During these tests we peaked at just over 109 decibels on the side of the road. For the power checks I caught up with an old friend of mine that I haven't seen for many years, Grant, over at GP Performance near Oxford. Grant's got a dyno tucked away in the back of his workshop, so we stuck the bike on that and gave it a few runs. The outcome was a healthy 133 brake at the back wheel. From what I've seen online, the stock number is 133 brake at the crank. The previous owner did say that the bike had been mapped, and going by these results I think that's probably fair. However, as I said earlier, I would get laughed at the pit lane if I turned up to a track day with this pipe on the bike. So for the rest of this video I'll cover off the removal of this system and the replacement with a stock system. First job was to remove the end can and its link pipe. The less said about how this was fitted in the first place the better. To remove the radiator I first popped off the cap and then disconnected the hoses, 2 on each side. There are 2 mounting bolts on the top of the rad, a bit awkward to get at and even more awkward to video, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. There is a 3rd bolt at the bottom attached to a bracket off the front of the engine. I disconnected the fan before pulling this last bolt out and removing the radiator. I can't say I was particularly impressed when I saw the state of the headers and the associated flanges and bolts. Clearly the bike has been ridden through a British winter and collected all the salt and crap that we normally get on our roads. The first job was to give the bolts a good soaking with some plus gas. I let that sit for a couple of days and then applied some WD-40 penetrating fluid. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Oh, thank for that. 6 out of 8 moving, 2 are going to need heat. Actually, those 2 remaining bolts didn't need any heat. With a bit of careful pressure, they all broke free. And with them all free, it was easy to whip off the exhaust, not least because there weren't any other mounting bolts. It was a bit of a fight to get the gaskets out, but they succumbed in the end. With these out, I could give the ports a bit of a clean up. I was lucky enough to find a complete exhaust system on eBay and got it for 80 quid, an absolute bargain. Whilst fitting it, I did find that lying on the floor holding 5 kilos of catalytic converter upside down against the bottom of the bike was bloody hard work. But with a strategically placed box to give it some support, I was able to get the right hand mounting bolt in place. I sourced a set of these fibre exhaust gaskets from eBay. They're not quite the same as the OEM parts, but I'll give them a go. Although I'm using the original bolts here, this is only temporary to get the pipe on the bike. Before clamping everything down to the proper torque settings, I will fit new bolts. There are 2 other bolts holding the cat in place, both on the left hand side. The first one just behind the side stand and the other one just in front. Fitting the end cam was just a case of slipping it onto the outlet from the cat, bolting the bracket onto the footrest hanger and tightening up the exhaust clamp. I used a bit of thread lock for the bolts on the heat shield. Although the lambda sensor was fitted into the old exhaust, it wasn't actually connected at the far end, which was just as well because I snapped it off when I tried to remove it. Luckily the eliminator was already fitted, so all I needed to do was plug the hole. The one remaining item was the exhaust valve. As my bike came without the servo fitted, I was tempted just to leave the valve in the open position, but I've just seen a servo on eBay for 20 quid, including the cables, so I'll come back and cover off the fitting that in a later video. Otherwise I've completed the swap of the pipe. As the bike is partially stripped down, I'm going to carry on with the other work that needs doing, and in the next video I'll cover off the brakes. So as always, thanks for watching.